Hi guys, welcome back to Byte by Riya. So today we are going to discuss about singleton design pattern. Before that, I want to tell you what is design pattern. Design pattern means for a common type of problem, there is a tested and tried solution. Okay, that common solution is called design pattern. For example, we all have common problem, right? For example, survival is one of our common problem, right? We need food, we need money. For that, what they suggested, the basic education, isn't it? They suggested us basic education. If I take another example, we need emotional support. So what is the problem we are facing? The people will come and go, isn't it? Men may come and men may go, right? So for that, what is the common solution they give? They suggest the marriage, isn't it? Just like that, for a common type of problem, there will be a common solution. So that such a solution is called a design pattern. Now here we are going to discuss, there are a lot of design pattern, right? Factory design pattern is there, like that. So today we are going to discuss about singleton design pattern. That means for a particular class only one object has to be created. So once again, what is singleton design pattern? For a particular class, for a particular class, only one object has to be created. Only one object has to be created. Okay, so it is called the singleton design pattern. Okay, so we can discuss with an example. I'm creating a class. What I'm going to name is that I'm going to name the class as ton. Okay, I'm going to create a class called a ton. All right. Okay, now I created a class called a ton. Oh no. Okay, in that, what I'm going to do is that so in this class, I'm going to create a method called fun. So void fun. I created a method called fun. Now inside it, I am going to print something. So I'm going to print system.out.println. In that, I'm going to print inside fun. Inside fun. Okay, now I created a method. I printed a statement called inside fun. Now I'm in coming to the main method. There I'm going to call that fun method. Okay, so to call the fun method, I need to create the object of that class, right? So now I'm creating the main method. Inside it, I want to create the object. So how to create the object? I want to tell how to create an object. New. Then I want to tell the object name ton. Okay, and I'm going to give the reference as t1. All right, now I created an object. Now I want to call this fun method. How to call the fun method? You want to tell t1. Okay, t1 dot fun. So how many object I created? I created one object, right? So now my question is, we can create n number of object, right? If I want to create an object again, now I created only one object. If I want to create an n number of object, it is possible, right? For example, I will show you. Next, again I'm going to create another method. Copying. Okay, now I'm going to create the method called T2, and I am going to call T2. Again, I'm going to create another method T3, sorry, another object T3. I'm going to call T3. Okay, so just like that we can create n number of object. Okay, but so to see how many object I am created in this program, what I'm going to do is that I want to see how many object I need to I created in this project. Okay, how many object I created? I created 3 objects, isn't it? So to see that number, I'm going to the class. Then there I am putting a variable count. Okay, to see how many object I created. Count. So count. If I create object, can I see that? No, right? So what we need to do is that to see that how much object you need to how much object I created. If you want to see that, I want to create instance block. How to create instance block? Yeah, this is instance block. In that I am putting the variable. First of all I need to declare that. So I created an object int count. In that I want to see how much object I need to create. So what I need to tell? I need to tell count plus plus. Count plus plus. Okay. So when you can how this count will work? It will, first of all, if you created a count after the object creation, okay, before instance get, so after object creation and before instance gets called, isn't it? So after object creation, then before this calling, before the object calling, this will work. So you can see how much objects are created. After object creation, before instance get called, instance block get called, you can this will work. Next, so let me run that and we can see whether it is working. So I want to print that. Here I am printing a statement called to see that how much object is. If you want to see anything, you want to print the statement, right? So I am printing system.out.println. How to so I created one more thing. I want to make this count as static. Why I am going to make count as static? Because whenever any piece of information which is created, if you want to use that particular object for all the classes, okay, whenever a piece of information which is used by all the classes of a class, we need to make that variable as static. Once again, whenever a piece of information, now this count I am going to use by all the objects, all these objects in the class, I want to use this piece of information, right? Yeah, so that's why I make that as a static. So if you want to use like that a piece of information, if you want to make use of a single piece of information by multiple objects in the class, you want to make that as a static. Okay, that variable as static. Now I made that count as static. Now how to call the static variable? Did we want to create object? No, we can call the static by using the class name. So the class is done to call to call the count, I want to use the class name. So I want to, the class name is turn.count. This is how we need to call that, right? Now let's run and see whether it is working. But what will be the output? The output will be 3, right? Because there are 3 classes. Yes, it is printing in 3 classes. Did you see? If I create one more class, the count will be 4, right? Sorry, not class. If I create one more object, the count will be 4. I'm creating one more object over here, T4. Yeah, now let's see, run. The output will be 4, isn't it? Yeah, now you get the output as 4. Yes, but it is telling that this, our singleton design pattern, is telling that for a particular class only one object has to be created. This like this is not allowed. Only one object should be created. So we can see how to do. That is the singleton class. Okay. So how to stop the object creation outside the class? Okay, the solution is we want to prevent object creation outside the class. Okay, how to do that? We have to make use something called a constructor. Before that, this is achieved by, okay, now you can create a number of class, n number of object. Okay, we can create a number of object like this, but singleton factory design telling you should create only one object. So this is achieved by, okay, the singleton design pattern will achieved by following 3 different steps. So the first step is what? We want to prevent object creation. We want to create how to create object creation outside the class. We have to make use of something called a constructor. Okay, and you want to make it as a private. So first step is going inside the class. Then we want to create a constructor. So I'm going to create a constructor called turn. Before that, I want to create a constructor called turn. How to create a constructor? Okay, I want to create the constructor not here. After the count, I am going to create. Okay. After the count, I'm going to, so we want to create inside the class, I need to create a constructor. Okay, so I created a constructor called turn. It should be private. We want to make it as private. So you can see, if you make this constructor as private, you can see you are getting error over here, right? Why you are getting error? Private constructor is not allowing you to create more than you to create object outside the class, isn't it? That's why we are getting error. So it is telling it is not allowed. We should remove that. So I'm removing. Okay. Next, and the step 2. So we done the first step. We prevent the object creation outside the class by making a constructor. We created a constructor as private. We are done with the first step. Next what? The second step is we need to create object of the class inside the same class and make that object as static, because only one object has to be maintained for the entire class. That is why we are going to make this also static. Okay, so next step, we want to create an object of the class inside the same class. So this is our class, so we need to create an object here inside the same class. I'm going to create a object. So I'm going to create an object called a turn and giving the name reference as t equal to new turn. Okay, and one more thing, this object is going to use for, if you and this is the common object. Okay, common object, we created a common object that is going to use by all the classes. Okay, we created a object of the class inside the same class, and we want to make this as static, as this is the common piece of thing we are going to use for all other things. We want to make that variable as static. Okay, the variable, we made that variable as, we made that object as static. Okay, because only one object has to be maintained for the entire class. Next, the third step is what we want to do. If outsider want to access, if I want to access the ton, okay, what I need to do, for example, if I go here, if I come here and I'm trying to access that, okay, ton t1, I'm going to create a t1 variable, then I'm going to try to get it. Okay, t1 dot fun. Okay, t1 dot fun. Yeah, it is not possible, right, to create a object. Why? Because we want to, if you want to get that, you want to make use of getter, right? So the third step is, if outsiders want to access that object, we need to provide getter, and getter should be static. Okay, so we are going to create a getter inside the fun. Public static ton I want to tell get object. Okay, I want to access from the outside. So if you made anything private, if you want to access from the outside, you want to use the getter, right? I'm telling get object, and what I need to do, I want to return t. Okay, next what, now I can call the if I want to access that, I can access from the outside. Okay, now let's see, going to the public static. Now I'm going to tell turn. So if you make use of turn t1 equal to turn dot, if I want to access the getter, you want to tell turn dot get object, right? Then t1 dot fun. Okay, now I am able to access the object, okay, from the outside the class. So now you can create, now I'm, if I want to create, if I want to create call the another one, it will be possible. Okay, I only one time it is needed. For example, now I'm again going to create the t2. There is only one object, but I am going to create multiple t1 t2 here. Now if I run, the output should be 1, right? Because even now I created two method, but the only one object is here. There is only one object, but there are different more than one method. I can even create n number of method inside the one object. See, that is called a singleton design pattern, right? For a particular class, only one object has to be created. Here I created only one object for that particular class. See, even I am creating T3. You can see now I created T3 itself, right? Now, even there is only one object in this class. This is the factory design pattern. So once again, how to do that? If you want to do, there are three steps. First step is to you want to prevent object creation outside the class by making the constructor as a private. Okay, how to do? We want to create an constructor by making that as a private. That is the first step. Then the second step is to create object of the class inside the same class and make that object as static, because only one object has to be maintained that to the entire class. So here I made an object which is static, and this object is going to use by the entire class. Okay, then if outsiders want to access the object, what we need to do? We need to provide the getter. We need to provide the getter for to make it accessible for the outsiders, because I made this as a private. So using get outside, we can access the object, right? I am accessing the ton object by doing that. Yeah, so yeah, that's all from today's video. So see you in the next video. Bye bye for today.